Presenting the toughest animal alive, the animal that can survive in the most extreme conditions, in the most intense heat, cold, and radiation, and even the vacuum of outer space.
We are tardigrades, aka water bears, moss piglets, or space bears.
The phylum Tardigrada has over 1,000 species, which are divided into three classes: Heterotardigrada, Eutardigrada, and Mesotardigrada. The Heterotardigrada consists of two orders: Arthrotardigrada, which are marine, and Echinus which are terrestrial. The Eutardigrada consists of two orders: Parcella, which are freshwater, and Apochella, which are terrestrial. Lastly, the Mesotardigrada consists of just one order, the Thermozooidea. There are many morphological characteristics which distinguish the different classes, including cephalic papillae, a cloaca, or Malpighian tubules.
We are microscopic animals that look like 8-legged teddy bears, but are only about 0.1 to 1.2 milliliters long. We can be found just about anywhere, from the Himalayas to the deep sea, from the rainforest to the Antarctic. We live in fresh water, in habitats that often have drying periods and rewetting periods, such as moss and algae. Because of our small size, some of us can even be blown in the wind and distributed all around the world. We are eutelic, meaning that when we fully mature, we are made up of a fixed number of cells, specifically around 40,000. Our cells make up two cell layers, giving us a hemocoel body cavity, similar to arthropods and mollusks. Our body cavity contains our circulatory fluid that assists in the diffusion of nutrients around our body. We have no defined circulatory or respiratory system due to our size. However, we do have a gut system with a mouth and an anus. The only place with a true coelom is around our gonads. As protostomes, our mouth develops before our anus, in the early stages of embryonic development.
Tardigrades have a relatively large brain and a well-developed nervous system. We have two subesophageal ganglia and 4 ganglia further along our body. Our body has a bilateral symmetry and is organized into 5 segments, a short head and a 4-segment trunk. We have several pairs of unjointed legs with 4 to 8 retractile claws at each end. Because of our lack of legs and only having 5 segments, we move with a slow, lumbering gait, which is why another translation of tardigrada is slow walker. Tardigrades also have an external cuticle, composed of the protein compound called albuminoid, rather than of the chitin that composes the insect cuticle. We shed our cuticle in a molting process several times throughout our life.
We eat fluid to survive. We eat the juices from algae, lichen, and moss. Some of us are carnivores and eat nematodes and rotifers, which are often the deep-sea marine species that live in the spaces between sand grains. With our 2 sharp stylets in our oral cavity, we pierce the cells of our food and suck out the fluids using the muscular pharynx as a pump. We have a wide variety of reproductive strategies. Most of us are gonochoric, meaning we are either male or female and reproduce sexually. Although a few of our species are hermaphroditic, in sexual reproductions, females lay 1 to 30 eggs inside their old cuticles, and one or more males fertilize the eggs by depositing their sperm. Some of our species have no males at all. This is our asexual reproduction, where we undergo parthenogenesis, and the female's eggs develop without fertilization. We have the unique ability to survive many environmental extremes by converting ourselves into a ton, making us one of the toughest animals alive. This involves pulling in our legs to give our body a cylindrical shape and then shutting down our metabolism and turning off metabolic processes, which in any other animal would be an indication of death. We are capable of entering the state of cryptobiosis by replacing the water in our lipid membranes with trehalose, a disaccharide sugar which allows us to survive extreme conditions.
Trehalose forms hydrogen bonds with macromolecules in the place of water during dehydration, and by doing this preserves native structures. When us tardigrades are in this latent stage, called a ton, we can survive for years at a time and remain resistant to extreme pressures, high temperatures, and freezing. This resistance to chemical and physical extremes is due to the metabolic standstill of a dehydrated organism and the lack of an aqueous phase, which is susceptible to sensitive biochemical reactions. When I am exposed to water, I will rehydrate and come back to life.
Since we are known to exhibit extraordinary tolerance to a variety of extremes, a group of researchers wanted to know how we protect ourselves in these harsh conditions. So a study conducted by Takikazu Kaneda found that a protein known as DSA prevented our DNA from breaking under the stress of radiation and desiccation. And they also found that the tardigrade-tinged human cells were able to suppress X-ray-induced damage by about 40%.
These are different phylogenetic trees that all have me in common. In both the 16S matrix and the character matrix tree, phylum Tardigrada are most closely related to Arthropoda and Mollusca. In the character matrix, there are only 31 evolutionary changes, whereas the 16S matrix has 952 evolutionary changes, due to the fact that it compares a genetic code rather than a set of 12 characteristics. In a phylogenetic tree, conducted according to genetic sequences from an article written by Matus, Tardigrada is a sister taxa to Nematoda and Arthropoda.
Literature is most similar to the character matrix tree, showing that the tardigrada's closest relative is Arthropoda.
Now you know, we are the toughest and coolest animals on Earth. We can endure just about anything.
So remember, next week when finals hit you in the face, you can endure anything. Be tough. Be a tardigrade.